It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Oh, that's what you're doing. I'm Dave. And I can't hear you. Nah, still muted.
And I'm Mecky.
That's correct. That's the truth right there. And this is Shiny Side Out, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on Revolution.radio. That is home. It's the home to fresh ideas. Buy some merchandise or donate if you like anything we say. You can join us in the chat room, and that reminds me, I've got to jump into the chat room, which I've forgotten to do. My bad. There you go, jumping in now. And you can talk to us in the chat room while we are on air. Now, this is show number 682.
280 and 600, are you sure?
Yeah, I am. I'm very sure about that.
Very good.
If I was sure about anything, that is what I'm sure about. And you can tune in to us online on your smart device directly via an app or listen at home on a Grace tabletop, believe it or not, digital radio. You might not have ever heard me say that before. Well, you might have just tuned it out. If you missed Solaris' show like I did, then, and I'm incapable of finding out who she had on. Let me have a quick look. Nope. I can't see anything. So, look, I'm sure it's a great show. It's a great host. She has great guests. And there is an awesome amount in the archives at the station. What a segue. That you can access for free. Cost you nothing. So if you like what we say, maybe you like what Solaris says, or any of the other hosts, do check out the archives. And look, you can now listen to them through an online interface, which is really cool. You don't have to download them, but you can still, and the option's available to you. And you can listen to it live through a web page, which is really cool. And you just drill down. I hate that expression, by the way. No one's drilling. There's no drill. What drill? You click, and there it is. So it's only 2 layers deep, and you're listening to shows. And they're all stored in date format. So if you have a calendar open, you can determine which one it is. And in our case, we number our shows so you can work that out, extrapolate how many weeks ago it was that you need to listen to it. But you can also find our shows on Spotify, on, of course, through, probably best way of saying it, Rumble and YouTube as well. And there's a chat in Locals if you're interested in that as well. But do like, comment, subscribe, and share. Not just the information, but share it with other people. We are trying to get our Rumble subscription up. So if you could, that'd be fantastic. Please do it for us. It does it for the algorithm as well. If you do listen to any of our stuff, do like it, comment, share, and let's see if we can get some numbers up. Thank you for listening. Now, I'm broadcasting today from Darkinjung. I nearly wasn't here, but I did manage to scrape in at the last few minutes before the show started. So apologies to you, Solaris, I didn't get to have a conversation with you or listen to your show. Mecky, whereabouts are you?
Always in the rock country.
There you go. And we acknowledge the traditional actors. There you go. Because we're crisis actors. So all the other actors, because Australia's not real. The traditional custodians of the land from whence we broadcast. Mecky, you know the crazy meter. The meter in which we use to measure the craziness of the world. It used to be just our country, then I think the crazy is spreading. I was trying to describe to some people today about my perspective on politics, and I did describe that line, that there's a line that everyone from the left and the right and the middle, and it's whatever, it doesn't matter where you are, extremist on either end, doesn't matter. You're all on the line, and none of you will agree with any other person on the line. And my friends, which we used to live together 20 years ago, just a little shout out to you guys. It was a lot of fun catching up with you. We went for yum cha too, by the way. So good. So good. In fact, I could eat yum cha all day long.
Yum cha for American listeners is dim sum. It's the Chinese breakfast. Really? Yeah, they don't call it yum cha.
Oh, okay. So I always end with the mango pancakes. I can't help myself.
Is there any other way to end?
I know, right? It just makes me want to begin again.
That's right.
And get some more. But look, the more people you have, the more reasonably priced it is.
Or the more things you can try.
Exactly right. I know. 100%. If you're sitting there on your own, you're not going to do it very, very well. But look, no chicken feet came to our table.
Oh,
I know.
Boo!
Boo! Boo! There was no fish skins, no chicken feet, nothing.
You're all whiteys, right?
Yeah.
There you
go. Hello. That's right. They know to avoid our table.
Not to those. Not the. No, not them. Not them. They don't like.
So I was trying to describe the crazy meter, right, to them, and that line, and how when I look at the world, I try to say, what's the extreme left right now and the extreme right, and I try to place myself in the middle, because we all know during COVID, everything went left so violently that even though I was on the left, I ended up on the extreme right, according to everybody else. And I just found that was a really difficult place to be in politically. And I don't want to be in the extreme of anything.
Yes,
I want to place myself comfortably right in the middle, man.
We love extremism. It's the best. Because life becomes easy. You just go with the flow. Just go step along there. Go step. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. No, but look.
I don't want to be two hobos arguing, Mickey. That's what I don't want to
be. The crazy meter you mentioned. There's a few things I want to bring up, because I dug deep. I wanted to know, right? This is about the tariffs. I really wanted to know what's what. So I did dig. I don't know if you guys are ready for it. What's the one country that is not on the tariffs list?
Russia?
Correct. That's the only country that is not. There are territories on this list which have no people. Okay.
Oh, the penguins.
Yeah, well,
those penguins have been they've been getting away with it for such a long time.
They're rich. They're in black tie all day long, right? So the thing is this, right? If someone had gone and just copied the list from Wikipedia of all countries and territories in the world and just, looked at what the trade deficits were, relatively speaking, and did that, then I go, okay, well, it's a shortcut, but I understand the logic, right? Now, that happened in part, but Russia was specifically not on the list. Then I thought, oh, well, maybe it's all those countries like Syria and South Korea and Russia that have rather sanctions against them. Then maybe they're not on the list because of sanctions. But no. Syria and North Korea are there. Okay. Right. Then I thought, okay, well, clearly there's no trade at all with, it's probably not worth it. I mean, maybe it's just so minuscule that it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I looked at the country that had the highest tariff levied against it. And that's Reunion. Have you heard of Reunion?
No.
Okay, so it's in the Indian Ocean. Reunion and Mauritius. You heard of Mauritius?
I know about Mauritius, yes.
Okay, Reunion is the sister island. Okay? And they're independent. Used to be French colonies. And Reunion, this is gold. Their tariffs are 73%. It's the single highest tariff on the list. 73%. Now you're going, oh my God, it must be worth gazillions. America must be pouring money into a Reunion like no tomorrow, right? No. Imports from Reunion in the United States, so this stuff going from Reunion to the United States was 4.01 $4.01 million US in January of 2024. $4 million went in goods from Reunion to the US. And the US exported $500,000 in the same time frame, or January, to Reunion. So you can see there's actually a massive trade deficit. Reunion exported $4 million worth of goods, but only bought $500,000 worth of goods. That's horrific. I mean, that could break the bank, surely. So then I thought, okay, well, clearly someone was thinking really hard about that, leveling 73% against something that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So what about Russia then? Russia must be much smaller a trading partner if they weren't even on the list. Well, no. Okay. The total goods traded was about $3.5 billion. U.S. goods exports to Russia in 2024 were $500 million, roughly. Okay. And goods imported from Russia into the United States, therefore, were $3 billion. So it's a fairly significant trade deficit, okay, of $3 billion or thereabouts, and no tariff. Now, so I don't know if you listened to the previous shows and my theories on Donald Trump and Russia and Elon Musk, but this is just another nail in the coffin, Dave. The one country that is not on the list, right? It's not there, even though there's significant trade and there's a significant trade deficit. If you bothered with Reunion, yeah, which has, interestingly enough, the trade deficit is about the same, right? Roughly speaking. Yeah, except in Reunion, it's in millions of dollars, and in Russia's case, it's in billions of dollars. There's no explanation for this that makes any sense in this world, other than my theory, right? And on top of that comes the fact that Russia has not really adhered to the ceasefire. It doesn't seem to be interested in peace. It's just
adhere. What does that even mean? It means continue.
It's a funny word, which means you're sticking to something, right?
That's right.
It's Old English. It's no longer in common use.
Well, just like literally and figuratively became the same word, maybe adhering to ceasefire is just continuing to fire.
There you go, boom.
You just spitballing here.
It's just, using bullets.
That's what it means.
And there's clearly no interest on Russia's side to actually do anything. So Donald Trump says, we're gonna punish them by, I don't know, to be honest.
Sure.
And good luck with that, I say, because they're not on the tariffs list. Right,
no,
so maybe he's going to.
I do have the tariff list up on the screen, and
it's really interesting.
Uh-huh.
So he's not. So maybe he's going to level, tariffs against them in the future. Who knows? Anyway, Ukraine is still under attack, and nobody seems to care a bit about it. Of course, the tariffs have taken over all the headlines globally. And it's not looking awesome. We wiped $6 trillion of the stock market. Now, bear in mind, a paper loss only becomes real when you start selling your shares. Let's say you're holding $1 million worth of some company's stock. I don't care which or who or whoever, right? And that drops to $10,000 worth of shares now. Then instead of $1 million, you got $10,000. Hold on to those papers. Don't sell. Because the loss is not realized until you sell. Just to be clear, right? It's just a paper loss, and markets have a tendency to correct either way, right? But it is significant. It is the third time in U.S. history that the stock market has experienced this. Three times. One was the Great Crash in the 20s. The other one was 2008. And the next one was COVID. So COVID and 2008 are in recent history. And this is the third one where we've seen this kind of value loss. Now, why is that? It is because of uncertainty. That's what it is, right? And China has now jumped in and put reciprocal tariffs in as well, which Donald Trump didn't like. He said, China panicked. That was the wrong move, which I find hilarious. But, nonetheless, there we are. The other thing that was really interesting, before I get back to my Russia theory, is did you see the protests in the States?
Which one?
Well, there were 1,200 over the weekend.
Yeah.
There were 1,200 protests. Essentially, they were protesting the tariffs. They were protesting the job cuts. They were protesting the illegal deportation. And I do want to talk about one guy there who was deported. He's not a U.S. citizen, but he was married to a U.S. Citizen. He's got kids there. He was grabbed off the street and deported to El Salvador. He's El Salvadorian, and put into the high max prison. And the U.S. government has admitted it was a administrative error. That's what they said.
No.
But we can't get him back. We can't do it. It can't be done. And the judge said, well, you got till Monday, which is tomorrow for us, and maybe the day after tomorrow for you in the States. You've got until Monday to bring him back. Now, Dave, I'm going to say something that's going to be a little off-putting. So if you've got a
queasy stomach,
or a
Sensitive.
sensible nature, or no, rather sensitive nature, don't listen to this. But the U.S. is paying El Salvador $6 million to look after these detainees. $6 million. And this is a supermax prison where nobody ever gets in or out. No visitors, nothing. You go in, it's a black hole, you're done. Right? Now, if I was El Salvadorian, I'd go, what? I'll just execute all of these people.
Because no one's going to know.
No one's going to know. So you execute these people, you get the $6 million, you have no costs. That's what you like. That's good capitalism. So in my opinion.
And when someone rings you up and says, oh, is that person still there? You go, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but things, you can't have them back, right? We can't
You can't have them back, and you can't come and see them. Just like the gold.
Yeah.
Can I see my gold? No.
In my opinion, they're all executed. They're all dead. All the people that were brought there, they're no longer there.
One-way journey.
And just the only thing we ever see is the stock footage of it's always the same stock footage of the same people being, head down, ferried through. It looks very clean too.
Yeah.
For a facility that is, that used, I guess. But it's a supermax prison. So they can't bring him back because he's dead. The question now becomes is what happens? And I don't know. Look, I have no doubt in my mind now, after I saw the tariff list, that Donald Trump is compromised. Vladimir Putin absolutely has something on him. There's no other explanation for any of this. Okay? It makes no sense for Russia not to be in that list. It makes no sense for Donald Trump to continuously take abuse from Putin. And by abuse, I mean he doesn't do what Donald Trump wants him to do. Okay? And he takes it. He says, "Oh, I'm really angry with him." He says, "I'm peed off," right? He said, or something like that, right? So what? You can say whatever you like, but what are the actions you're taking? None. Zero. So, not only that, but Vladimir Putin gave him a portrait that he sent together, with Witkoff over to the States. And Donald Trump was really touched. That's so nice. Thank you so much. It's probably got a little camera and a microphone in there.
I bet it does.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is this. The actions that Donald Trump is taking, or rather not taking, speak volumes on where he sits. And there's no way that he's not compromised. Because the list was taken from Wikipedia. I guarantee it. And then Donald probably said, "Oh, take Russia off it." Why? Why? No, really.
I have a possible scenario, only possible, that part of the negotiation is to not be tariffed for the Ukraine. That's the only scenario I can imagine where that may have been one of the criteria.
Makes no sense, because the Ukraine was tariffed.
That's right.
So everybody got a base 10%, essentially, right?
Woohoo!
And then, okay, so a lot of these countries that are on these, it's all the countries except for Russia, they don't have tariffs on American goods.
That's
Let
right.
me explain how the tariffs work. This is really important to understand, because Donald Trump has been talking about reciprocal tariffs. So if you put a tariff on me, I put a tariff on you, right?
That's right.
Right. That there are two things, right, apart from tariffs, that his team looked at. One was something like a GST or VAT. That's our goods and services. Like every good in Australia has got a 10% surcharge. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And Europe has got something similar. It's usually 7 or 14% VAT, or in Germany Mehrwertsteuer, right? And that's just on all goods. So now the Americans look at that. No, that's a tariff. No, it's not.
It's not. It's a goods and services tax. Yeah.
It's a goods and services tax. That's exactly what it is, right? No. Or VAT, value added tax, right?
Value add. That's right.
So they added that to the equation. The other thing they added, and that's the kicker, and that's why Reunion has got 73% worth of tariffs on it, is the trade deficit. They looked at the relative imbalance of trade between the US and whatever given country, and that then, as part of their, and the formula that I've seen, have you seen the formula, right? It's a hilarious formula, which looks a lot more complicated than it really is, because they put a couple of factors in there which cancel each other out. Anyway,
like the Drake equation, but for tariffs.
Yeah, if you want to seem smart and like you science a lot, that's the equation you use. Okay, like a little science hat on, going, woo, woo. I know how to use an abacus.
I science.
Okay, that's right. So the trade deficit, and that really made it massive, like a massive difference to the tariffs that were eventually charged to these countries. The trade deficit. Now, let's be very clear here. How does a trade deficit occur? Now, a trade deficit occurs if you buy more from someone than they buy from you. In a perfectly balanced world, they would buy the same value as you buy from them. Like, then there's no imbalance, everybody's happy, whatever. Now, America is the biggest consumer culture on the planet. They consume more per capita than anybody else on the planet. More. Far more. In fact, if everybody on the planet consumed like the Americans did, and this was a study done by Time magazine almost 15, 20 years ago. Back then, if everybody consumed like America does per capita, we would need another 6 planets, another 6 Earths to support that, right? So that's clearly not some place we want to go to. But Americans have gotten used to really cheap goods, a lot of them, and really to have anything whenever they want it. It's like the Roman Empire. Everything, is imported into America. And that's really the global economy up to this point. So these countries, they're looking for markets. America's a market. Hey, yeah, we'll sell it to America, sure. But it was America that opened up to the world. And it was specifically China that was brought into the fold of trade. And America opened up specifically to China. Now, China has the advantage of not really having any labor laws or any worker protections of any kind, really. You don't want to be a coal miner in China. It's my point. So China produces cheaply, and American companies saw that, and they go, oh, wow, I can go to China and produce real cheap. And that's what they did. And not just China, but Peru and Bangladesh and India and Vietnam and so on and so forth. These are places where the standard of living, this is important now, the standard of living is a lot lower than in the United States. Things are a lot cheaper, so people get paid a lot less. And in comparison, the labor cost is tiny in those countries when you compare it to the labor costs of Americans, right? Now, will manufacturing ever be coming back to the United States? Maybe, but it doesn't mean you will have cheap goods. Now, there are only 2 ways you get cheap goods if you manufacture in the United States. 2 ways. 1, you automate everything. No workers. You have to automate everything. Okay? 2, you pay people in the United States what you pay people in Vietnam. Now, do we think that's going to happen?
No.
Probably not. So anything that you make in the United States, right, that was previously made in China or whatever, will now cost a lot more. whether there are tariffs or not. I mean, if the manufacturing comes back, that's what's going to happen. The question is, should manufacturing come back? That's the question we have to ask ourselves, right? Because we live in a value-added economy. When I say manufacturing, it's a very broad thing, Dave, obviously, right? The manufacturing of high-tech or high scientific goods and services, like computers, electronic consumer goods, things like that. Yeah, I think, America should produce those because they're high value. But should America really go back to making, really cheap plastic furniture and, I don't know, aluminum cans and whatever? I mean, is this really something America wants to do? I don't know. Maybe they do. But there's a spectrum of manufacturing, right? And you will not be able to get it back to 1950s levels. You just can't. If you come back to America and can get to those manufacturing levels and get nothing from the outside, right? You produce everything in America by American workers and no automation. A can of Coke is going to cost you $5. Okay, that's how much it'll cost you, and that's really the big problem here.
But that's also related to every other product. Everything,
absolutely.
Everything, and unless wages follow that, which is very unlikely, because then everything goes up again.
Yeah, but if you do that, you know what you get? Hyperinflation.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Hyperinflation. So you're really sitting on a. This is funny. You've seen this, I'm sure. There's a tree, and there's a big branch, and the guy's sitting on it. Yeah. And he's sawing off the branch. But he's sitting on a portion that's going to fall off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but at the same time, someone is actually trying to cut down the tree with a chainsaw. So that's where we are at the moment, because it doesn't actually make any sense. And people talk about this and the other and bringing manufacturing back into jobs. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. But I tell you what, some countries might come and sit down, with Donald Trump and say, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll talk to you." But this is what happened before in the first administration that he had. They will talk to him to placate him, to appease him, because they're thinking he's going to be gone in 4 years. Someone else is going to come in.
That's right.
Right? Things are going to change, most likely. In fact, I'll be honest with you, after those protests and some of the things that are going to hit America in the next few months, which are going to affect us here, Dave, I'm not sure he's going to sit out his term. I'm not sure he can sit out his term.
All right. So I've got a really good example, which we've all seen. Everyone should know this, almost word for word. If you've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you've seen the scene with the teacher and all the kids who are stunned. They're stunned in boredom with what Lawrence Sachs says. And it is, in 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the Anyone? The Great Depression, passed the the tariff bill, the Hawley Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered, raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone?
It did not.
Know the effects? It did not work. And the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today we have a similar debate over this. And that was during the filming of that. This exactly happened. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? I'm doing it with too much emotion. Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone?
Voodoo economics.
That's right. Something do economics. Voodoo economics. That is one of my favorite scenes in all movie history.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, everybody, in case you didn't hear. And that's 100% correct. And it's actually been quoted quite a bit now on the internet, to be honest. I've seen it a few times, and it's exactly right. So why do we see, do you know what the definition of insanity is?
Yeah, I do. But let's throw it to the audience.
Go on. Anyone? Bueller? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition of insanity. Now, let's just take a step back, because people still think, oh no, it's gonna be, he's gonna flip flop, he's gonna change his mind on Monday, and maybe he will. Don't think so. But the thing is this: the damage that all of this has done. Now, he's been in office. Is it 3 months, 100 days?
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about that as well, like Dave and I have talked about now for a long time. This is a fundamental shift in geopolitics. The same shift we saw after World War I, after World War II, after the British defeated the Spanish Armada. Well, the Storm defeated the Spanish Armada. But these are the shifts that we saw. Okay? And these are the things that will change history. These are the things, these are the points in time where something new is going to start. It usually isn't what you expect. It usually isn't what you expect. Because the funny thing is this: during World War II, the Soviet Union, France, Great Britain, and the US were allies, right? Defeating Nazi Germany and the Japanese Empire, and Italy. Well, Italy sort of surrendered pretty early on in the game, so let's not talk about Italy. But it looked okay. This is great. Look, these powers came together and they fought each other. And I remember that Stalin and Hitler had a pact as well. It's called the Steel Pact, just before Hitler invaded Russia. They divvied up Poland between them, right? But there was a Steel Pact. The Germans went to train the Russians. The Russians paid them with massive amounts of timber and grain, etc., which led to massive starvation in Russia, because the grain that was meant to feed the Russian people went to Germany. Anyway. But then then of course Hitler invaded, and that was a big mistake. And he went into Russia in the winter. Clearly, he didn't read Napoleon. Who does that? Eh? Everybody, Dave. Everybody does that. So, and then after the war, okay, great. So maybe now Russia and the US, of course not. So the funny thing is this: we've talked about Operation Paperclip a lot, and we've talked about the OSA, which was the forerunner to the CIA. And a whole bunch of other stuff as well. The main reason that the Americans were so keen to get Nazi scientists and operatives over to their side was the threat, or the imminent threat, of Russia, the Soviet Union, the communist threat. If it hadn't been for that, right? Because you know what the French wanted to do? They wanted to turn Germany into an agrarian nation, destroy all heavy industry. And now Germans are just farmers and pastoralists. That was the plan the French had. But the Americans go, nah. And the British also, we need a strong Germany. Okay, it's divided now, but we need a strong Germany. That's why the Marshall Plan was put into effect. We need a barrier against Soviet Europe, okay, which was the other side of the Red Curtain, or the Iron Curtain, the Warsaw Pact. And that's what happened. That's where we are. And that's how all these Nazi scientists came into America scot-free. Werner von Braun, the OSS, which was turned into CIA under Nazi auspices, and all the networks the Nazis had all over the world were turned over to the CIA. And China wasn't really a threat at the time, so nobody really cared about China. And then the United Nations was established with its headquarters in New York. Why do we think that the United Nations had a headquarters in New York? Because America wanted to have control. Come on, this is not that hard. But now Donald Trump, who doesn't seem to understand any of the history, has just kicked over his box of toys and says, you know what? I don't like it. I don't like what you're doing. I want to do my own thing. And everybody around me tells me what a great guy I am and how wonderful, smart I am, and this and that. And Elon Musk, Sieg Heil! And then we go from here to there. By the way, did you hear about Elon Musk's past?
Not yet.
He's South African. He's South African.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So his father was very rich. So he doesn't come from humble beginnings at all. But not only was his father very rich, his family, back to his grandfather, they were not intimately opposed to the Nazi movement. In fact, Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, wherever you grow up, that colors who you are. It fundamentally informs who you are. And if you grow up in a country that has a racial division, right, between its citizens, like South Africa did, that really shapes your thinking. And it certainly did in his case, because he is supporting all of the right-wing causes. Forget America. He's doing the same thing in Europe, right? So Elon Musk is, yes, he's a right-wing fascist. Why? Because he's white and he's rich, right? So he should, in fact, I wonder who's going to Mars with him. Now, how white are you? Can you make the rocket? All you darkies, second rocket into the sun. Thank you very much. So this is actually a problem, right? When you have the richest man of the world who is a closet, well, maybe not so closet racist, right? Who also doesn't believe in the power of the people at all, because none of the things that are happening in the States right now are for the people, not a thing. And I find it really disturbing that people still believe, even in the chat room, I'm sure, right? And it's okay, everybody can believe what they want. But why would you ever believe that a billionaire surrounded by billionaires, right, looking to give billionaires a $2 trillion tax cut over the next few years, and just fired tens of thousands, I think it's 80,000 VA department, which is Veteran Affairs Department employees, of which a big chunk are veterans. So these are people that served the United States, and some of them actually were wounded in combat, and certainly a lot of them carried psychological damage. And that was a steady job for them, right? Now 80,000 gone. That's like spitting in the face of these people. So you can't have it both ways, right? I mean, yeah, government fraud and all that has to go, sure enough, but at some point you have to check yourself, like Dave likes to say. You got to do a bit of a self-check. What are we doing here? What's going on? And all self-checking, left or right, doesn't really matter. They're all gone. The only people that self-check are people in the middle. That's it. You know, like, am I too far left? Am I too far right? I'm in the middle. I want to be in the middle. You can't be in the middle anymore. There's no middle. In fact, left or right is meaningless as well. It is now rich versus... Actually, that's not true. It is the super rich parasites against everybody else. That's where we are. If you think you're rich, you think you're well-to-do, you got another thing coming. You think the stock market thing is over? I don't think so. I don't think so. What's the next thing to happen? Inflationary pressures? Sure. Could it lead to a depression? Yes, it could, depending on how many people are unemployed in the end. Because there's a knock-on effect. If you lay off 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 federal workers, all right? Let's call it, that's 100,000 households. That's people who will not buy stuff anymore, who won't go out anymore, who might not buy a new car, who won't renovate, who are not going to go on holidays, right? And all of a sudden, the knock-on effect on the economy is going to be quite significant. Apart from the the price rises that come along with the tariffs. And on top of that, and this is again going back to my Russia theory, Donald Trump has done everything in his power to alienate relationships that were forged over the last 80 years. 80 years. Out the window. And did you hear what Elon Musk said just today?
No.
Not today, but recently. So Elon Musk said, okay, once this is all over, all this unpleasantness with the tariffs, Dave, why can't North America and Europe be a free trade zone? That's what he said. That's what he said. What? Not only that, but with free movement between them.
It's kind of like a new EU.
Boo! It makes no sense at all. In fact, Donald Trump is all against this completely. And that's why the UK left European Union, because of the free movement, right?
That's
just
right.
Very clear what happened. But no, Elon Musk in his wisdom, and I'm sorry, but I think he's probably one of the dumbest people on the planet. He's clever, he's street smart, like a rat is street smart, right? He's very clever that way. He certainly knows how to put himself in the driver's seat, pretending he invented things when he hasn't invented a thing. He's not a founder of Tesla. He's not a founder of PayPal. He's not a founder of anything. but he's clever at putting himself in there, right? His father must have taught him. But the point is, he's one of the dumbest guys that's out there. You listen to him for 5 minutes and your IQ drops 10 points, right? Guarantee it. Anyway, so that's the crazy. You asked me how crazy it is. That's how crazy it is, man.
Yeah, look, I thought the crazy had boundaries, but the crazy doesn't. No, there's no boundaries anymore. I think it's all pervasive. I'm watching our own politicians in their lead up to our election here, in their campaign. I'm watching them talk and only talk about the things that affect the voter and the voter only. There isn't a single thing that is nation in their discussion. They're really trying to get us emotionally connected to the things that they're bringing up. I saw, the funny thing was Clive Palmer's party called Trumpet Patriot, which is Trump-et. It's like a mini Trump. Patriot.
Yes. Yes.
If he had the Patriot Party only, if he didn't have his picture on it, if they had good policy, and that's, I think, really missing here. I like conversations about politics, but without the emotion behind the political party connections that people have. Rather, if you could wipe the slate clean right now, what would it be? No political parties. What would you want to happen in our environment, in our political environment? And they go, the roads, better health care. And they just talk about all the things, education. These are not grassroots issues so much. I mean, roads are, because it's your local roads usually. People talk about toll-free travel, where you're never going to wrestle the tolls out of the hands of the Macquarie Bank. Forget it, it's never going to happen. And I do love the leader, and I love all the leaders in the AI and all the big, large corporations, so don't ruin my car.
Anymore.
You have to stop doing it, because it's going to affect my employment. And please don't affect my employment, because I can't do that. Now, when I ask them, people actually don't have very much in the way of contributions towards what should fix everything. What do they actually want that doesn't affect them generally, but is positive towards everybody? No one has that view. We've all been told to look at ourselves in a mirror, and we're the only person who's personally involved in ourselves politically. Isn't that nuts? I know that's the easiest way to catch a fish, is to put the bait right in front of them. In fact, if you're going to fish for, what's that one that's found up in the north end of Australia? It's really nice, and it doesn't swim very much.
Barramundi.
Barra. So, if you want to catch a barramundi, my friend says, donk it on the head with the sinker, and it'll snap at the bait. If the bait's in front of it, it won't even eat it. You've got to donk it on the head with the sinker. He said he got sick and tired of his 6 months travelling across the top end of Australia, eating nothing but mud crabs and barramundi. Of course, they're delicacies, and it's so good, right?
So expensive.
We can't afford it anymore. But yeah, sure, right? That's fantastic. So, that's what our political system has turned into. No single person is interested in the greater view. Now, I did a lot of soul searching this week, and I came up with that perspective because being a nation first, like the whole lot of us moving forward with decisions, isn't found in the West. It's not. And if you use the polar opposite of that, you'll see the countries that do have that as their centerpiece of how they operate. An ant colony, which I wouldn't say is particularly smart, they don't have a lot of knowledge of the greater environment around them, but they all think towards the building of their colony and where it's going. Do we do it? I don't know. I think it's our mistake.
There are some in Australia. No, there are
I want a
nations,
tax
like-
cut. That's what I want. I want tax cuts for
Tax-
me, and I want things to be cheaper for me. I don't care about everyone else. They can all get stuffed.
It's a Western specific problem, a Western
Yes.
mindset problem.
Mm-hmm.
In the East, surprisingly, that is different. So that's why China is as successful as it is, right? And the funny thing is that you can see it as well. You know, all the tall puppies. I mean, the Chinese let billionaires come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But don't get too big for your boots, boyo.
Yeah, Mac.
come to
What's his
chop
name?
ya.
What's his name? The head of Alibaba.
Yeah, I
big
can't remember his
forehead?
name.
Yeah,
Yeah. But he disappeared for a little while, then he came back.
That's right. And then he disappeared again. Never to be
I
seen
love the
again.
leader.
I love
the leader.
I love all the leaders.
So it's a real thing, right? And in
Yeah.
the West, you're 100% correct. It's me, right? What's in it for me? We've lost this community sense, which we need to get back, because if we don't, then the parasites are going to have a really easy time. Because if you don't have a sense of community, this is really important to understand.
Mhm.
You can be picked off by anyone.
That's right.
If you organize as a community, it's a lot harder to get you down. Like Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece, The Seven Samurai, which was remade as The Glorious Seven, or the Magnificent Seven, with the immortal Yul Brynner, tells the story of a village terrorized by Mexican bandits, which goes out to hire the services of mercenaries, if you will, right, or Ronin in the case of the Seven Samurai, to protect the village. In the end, though, the moral is the village came together because the Seven Samurais, as well as the Seven Cowboys, were sort of being defeated, overwhelmed. But then the whole village came together and defeated the threat. Now, they still needed the Seven Samurai and so forth to help, initially help them, but they came together as a community. And it's really hard for the parasites to defeat us if we do that. If we don't do it, we got no chance, right? And right now, as Dave has said, 100% correct, we are so divided and we're so interested in well, what is in it for me? Why am I voting for you? That's how they structure the advertising for the campaign. What's in it for the voter? Oh, we're gonna have a tax cut, or we're gonna do this, we're gonna build that. It's gonna be great for you, and that's gonna be great for you, right? That's what we're gonna do for you. The first home dream, etc. But is it gonna be good for the country? And then I mean this, right? I mean, John F. Kennedy said something very important a long time ago. Don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. What he meant was, look, yes, we are a country, and then and the country can do many things, Social Security and all that wonderful stuff. But ultimately, we are a collection of people that have come together. And what can we do collaboratively and collectively to make and lift ourselves up? What can we do together? That's what he was asking. What can we do together? Right? Now, this was in the context of the moon and the Soviet threat and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? But what can we do together to make us better or more than the sum of our parts, right? And that's what we've lost. 100%, Dave. You're absolutely correct. But China has it. Most of Asia has it.
Mm-hmm.
India doesn't have it.
No.
The West has lost it,
Yeah.
for the most part. And Africa never got the chance to develop over the last 100 years. I mean, they were 200 years.
That's true. They were with
Ransacked.
restrained.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
yeah. So, I was watching a video. It's a personally worn camera on a police officer in England. PC, insert name here, whoever it was. And there was a lady standing in front of a hedge in front of an abortion clinic wearing a trench coat. And the police officers in England ask her, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "Well, it's a public street and I'm just standing here." And they said, "Were you praying?" And she said, "Maybe in my head." I was, maybe in my head. And I said, "Well, you have to move along." But not from here, they said. And they pursued her, not on foot. She didn't move. Not once did she move her feet or her hands or anything. She didn't move. And she said, "Well, I haven't done anything wrong." And they go, you have to come with us. And they were trying to move her along and arrest her for, I forget what it was. It wasn't loitering. It wasn't standing around doing nothing.
Praying with intent.
That's and it wasn't protesting because she said nothing out loud. She wasn't even holding a sign. And I began to worry greatly for everyone who in the world thinks that the Great Reset isn't coming for them if the rules aren't changing, Mekki, because they're cracking down on all of this. And if they were to arrest her for standing there and not doing loitering, what is it, a pre-crime? How can they prove anything? What she do? Nothing. She did nothing at all. And she was just there for a while, and they noticed her still there when they came back. Now, she could have been waiting for someone who was in the abortion clinic, like maybe your daughter or something. It could have been any reason, but they escalated that to an arrest.
It is the unprecedented increase of police powers that we've seen, especially in the West over these last, I want to say, 20 years, where all of a sudden we've got military
segue too.
Yeah, we got military assault vehicles as part of police departments.
That's right.
We've got assault weapons.
That's right.
And we have, you know what happened? The guy who tasered the lady, the like 80 or 90, she was like crazy old, right? And he, I think he didn't get off scot-free, but he wasn't. Sorry?
He was found guilty of doing it.
He was found guilty, but only of manslaughter.
That's right.
And I think it was on probation. Or kind of, the punishment didn't fit the crime.
No.
And we're seeing this like a lot now. And if you think that the death of Rodney, what's his last name? I forget.
You know that guy? Yeah,
the his last name. I apologize,
guy.
But if we think that somehow some magic happened and America is no longer doing these things, no.
So the damaging of Tesla vehicles.
Floyd.
Thank you. So the damaging of Tesla vehicles now. I saw Pam Bondi talking about one of the persons that they've captured who inscribed on the side of a Tesla car a symbol that might have been used in the 40s in Germany. And they said that this person now can be considered part of a terrorist organization and who's going to receive 20 years in prison. And look, that's malicious damage. That is what that is. That's all that crime is malicious damage.
It's
and
not
should
terrorism.
Be made to pay. Terrorism, I don't think so. But
I agree.
Part of this worry that I have is how quickly a police state can be established. In England, it's only taken a year and a half, and suddenly they're in all sorts of problems. Where, when you have a law enforcement person at the top, now you've got, let's say, the CEO of Tesla, and now damage against Teslas is the thing, and people are calling him the N-word with an I at the end. And now there are the people who were leftist, most critical of polluting the environment and doing all these things, green, promoting green, everything, are now willfully damaging property that other people own, or themselves burning it in protest, burning their own vehicle that's got carcinogens when you burn it. I don't understand how quickly we got here. It's only a few months, Mekki, and suddenly, look at us.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, while I don't have an explanation that is all-encompassing, I think what people have felt for the longest time is frustration. And this is why Donald Trump was elected in the first place, and that's why he was elected the second time as well. So frustration. People feel divorced from the process. We've seen the rise of a political class. When America was founded, this was there was not meant to be a political class. You go do your service for the people,
That's right.
and then go back to whatever else you do. We now have people that are politicians for life.
That's right.
Career politicians.
Mm-hmm.
That was complete. I mean, they didn't even have parties when America was founded. They're not parties. The parties are a fairly recent phenomenon, right? You voted for the person. That's why in American politics, you vote for the person. And across the world, with the exception of Switzerland, Party politics, there's music. Party politics is the only thing that's important.
That's right. Look, this is the end of the first hour. When we come back, we're going to do Mind Control Part 5 in a series, if that's the number I think we're up to. So take the time to donate. Do like, share, subscribe, and comment on our videos. Please do it. It'll help us a lot. And we'll see you after the very short break.